Saros is finally here, and I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the most anticipated releases for me since it was first announced last year. April's already been stacked with games, and somehow it just keeps going with another big drop with this game. Now, if you haven't been keeping up, Saros is basically the spiritual successor to Returnal, which was one of the few true flagship PS5 games that came out back in 2021. So coming into 2026, this is one of the first real PlayStation exclusives to hit this year. And to me, there's a lot riding on it. And I think the big question going into this is going to be simple. Did they actually improve on what made Returnal so good, or is this just more of the same? Because if you played Returnal, you already know the deal. Fast-paced combat, constant movement, and a difficulty curve that doesn't really care if you're ready or not. Saros keeps all of that, but what surprised me is how much they've adjusted around it. There are a lot of small quality of life changes here that don't make the game easier, but they do make it feel a lot more fair. Welcome back, or if you're new, hi, my name is Stu. I talk about the games that I'm playing, what's going on in the industry, and where all this is heading every single week. If that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing and joining the gaming corner. Now let's get into the video. So to break this down, this video is going to be broken up into 3 parts: the story, the gameplay, and whether you should actually buy this game or not. I'm going to keep this as short as possible so that you can decide if this game is actually worth the hype. Starting with the story. I think that Housemarque did a really good job with the pacing here compared to Returnal. In Returnal, the story felt more abstract and left a lot more room for interpretation for what was actually going on. In Saros, you get a mix of storytelling styles. There are some cutscenes that give you a clear sense of what's going on, but a lot of the story is told through text logs, short audio clips from characters affected by the eclipse, and these kind of half cutscene moments where you get to talk to someone, but it's not a true full cutscene. If you're expecting those big blockbuster PlayStation style cutscenes, there really aren't that many in this game so far. The ones that are there are really good, but most of the story is delivered through these smaller, more fragmented moments than the full cinematic style that you usually get in PlayStation games. And honestly, those semi-cutscenes don't always feel too natural. They feel kind of janky and forced. The conversations can feel a bit off at times considering on when you're asking the questions. To me, the strongest storytelling here would be through the text logs. That's where the story really works the best in my opinion. You get a lot more detail about the characters, their motivations, and why they're even on this mission in the first place. It feels more direct and a lot easier to follow. Now keep in mind that I'm only about 4 to 5 hours into the game as of now, so there's definitely more to uncover, but so far that's been the strongest part of the storytelling. Now on to the gameplay. This is where things start to feel very familiar. The gameplay loop in Saros is very similar to Returnal. You play through the level, you die, you respawn, and things change, but they also stay the same, just enough to keep each run feeling fresh. The main difference this time around is the focus on permanent progression, and I'll be honest, when I first heard that, it had me a little worried at first because I thought Returnal had the absolute perfect balance of challenge, and I didn't want this to feel like an easier version of this game. But after playing it, I can say I was wrong. The first couple of hours of Saros are still very challenging. The regular enemies are not too bad once you get used to them, but that first boss, I believe it's Prophet, is a real test, and it feels very intentional. As you keep playing and start unlocking upgrades, the game does get easier with each run, but in a way that actually feels very rewarding. In Returnal, there was no real progression system outside of you learning enemy patterns until everything clicked, but here it is a mix of both. You are still learning the patterns, but you are also getting stronger as you go through each run. So each run feels like you're actually making progress in the game. Because of that, the enemy patterns never really feel overwhelming. They start off challenging but quickly become manageable as you get deeper into the game. I think this change is necessary for the amount of new mechanics added into the game to make sure that it doesn't get too overwhelming too fast. Now, should you buy Saros? I honestly think Saros is definitely worth the hype. The constant exploration across the biomes keep things feeling fresh, and the challenge is manageable, especially once you're able to adjust the difficulty after those first couple of bosses. If you're into roguelites, this is absolutely a game for you, and I think it lives up to everything people were expecting. This could easily end up being one of PlayStation's biggest games this year, maybe only behind Marvel's Wolverine. And honestly, the most interesting part about Saros is how it fits into what's happening across the industry right now. More and more AAA games are starting to lean into their roguelike formula, and it's not by accident. It's because that genre just works, and it's quickly becoming one of the standards in modern gaming. So if you made it this far, don't click off the video just yet. Watch the video that's on your screen right now, because in that one, I break down exactly why roguelikes are starting to take over and what it means for the future of gaming. As always, thanks for stopping by the corner. Peace.